Hi, Mrs. McDonald again. We are going to be talking about today a handout that hopefully you have gotten the same thing. It should be 3 pages, right? All right, this is your FSA rubric. It is very, very important that we know what is expected of us. So I am going to go through this intently with you. Hopefully you have highlighters on the tables. So please use those and follow along. Just a second. I'm going to share the same document that you see. I want you to go to the one that says purpose, focus, and organization. Highlight that. Okay, first off, when I talk about purpose, focus, and organization, what does that tell me? That's your framework. If you have that, please, if I write it, if I highlight it, you're doing that today. All right, see which page I'm on. Make sure it follows. All right, thank you, dear, very much. All right, if you follow along with me, if I write it, you write it today. If I highlight it, you highlight it. All right, we're going to talk about this and let you know there's several different areas and ways to get points on this. So that's the first thing that we're going to look at. But to understand what these numbers at the top mean, I'm going to show you this. A perfect score on the FSA is a 10. We've talked about that. Purpose, focus, and organization score. If I were to get a 4, I would have the highest number I could get. There's a second section. It's evidence and elaboration. Hey, framework helps you with that too, right? If I were to do it perfectly, I would have a 4. We're going to talk about conventions of standard English. If I were to do it perfectly, I would have a 2. Therefore, my perfect score, okay, would be a 10. I have seen maybe 3 or 4 10s in the years that I've been doing this with the 11th and the 12th graders. I know there are more with the 10th graders, but with 11th and 12th graders, I have not seen a ton of them. I've seen a lot of 8s and 9s though. So just know we're shooting for a 10. If we shoot for a 10 and we try to do all these parts and pieces and we end up making only an 8, well, we're way ahead of the game, right? Remember, the more points on this side means the more that you're able to miss on the reading side and make it okay and still pass. So just so you understand, this is the perfect score. We need at least a 6 here. We really like a 7. They tell us a 7 passes. I have seen many 6s pass. All right, so now let's go back. Now we're knowing what we're shooting for. We're shooting for this number. Hold on, I don't think I'm recording, am I? I am not recording, so let me go back and do it again. Actually, I was recording. Yay. Okay, my bad. I'm sorry, guys. I am very sleep deprived, so I did not realize it was, and the little thing's not flashing, so I didn't know. Okay, we're going to keep on, so I don't have to repeat all that. All right, so in this, to get a 4, I like that. To get a 4, these are the things we need to do. We need to have a fully sustained and consistently focused controlling idea. Clear controlling idea. If I highlight it, you highlight it. What is your purpose or controlling idea? That's your claim, okay? It doesn't matter what we call it. They're talking about your claim there. If you want to write that word to the side, that's talking about your purpose, okay? Your purpose is your claim. All right, so we need it to be fully sustained, consistently focused within the purpose, the audience and task, and it has to have a clear controlling idea. Effective organization, effective, I want you to notice these words, and structure. Structure means framework, right? Creating a coherent and completeness. The response includes most of the following. Strongly maintained. Let's scooch this over a bit so I am not quite as awkward here. There we go. All right. A strongly maintained idea, controlling idea, a skillful use of a variety of transition strategies. Remember I said we had those transitions in there? That's another reason why I'm doing that. A logical progression. Well, if I'm using that framework, I should flow logically, right? An appropriate style and objective, okay? If we follow the framework, we're good to go with all of those. Let me get me a different highlighter there. This one's not working great. All right, so that would be if you're going to get a 4, all right? Now, if we shoot for a 4, hopefully we're going to get a 4, but some of us are not. We may fall a little bit behind and we get a 3. So let's look at what a 3 would look like. All right, for a 3, adequately sustained. See, here it was fully sustained. Now we're talking about adequately sustained. And then generally focused instead of consistently focused, right? All right, next thing. Over here, it said clear controlling idea. This one still says clear controlling idea. We still have to have a good claim. That's why I'm telling you, if you don't have a good claim, we don't have a paper. Evident, okay, evident that you had some organization, right? All right, so then let's look here. Maintained. If you look at the difference in your wording, it's strongly maintained. Adequate instead of skillful. Adequate instead of logical. It's good enough. Yeah, it's got it. It's good. It's not great. It's not perfect, but it's there. All right. And then appropriate style and objective. That stays the same. You've got to have that. Right? All right. This one, let me look back at this. This one said, and maintain. You can have a good tone and then not maintain it. This one, if you kind of lose it and get a little loosey-goosey a few places, then you might drop back to a 3. All right, now let's go look at what a 2 would look like. The response is somewhat sustained with the purpose, audience, and task, and may include loosely related. Look at the one beside you. It's related, right? This one is loosely related or extraneous material. What is loosely related? It kind of matches. It kind of works in there, but not all the time. Extraneous means you're pulling things that didn't have reason to be here. You pulled out your own information. Remember, when you're citing evidence, it cannot be your evidence. You're pulling only from the papers that you're pulling. Something I may not have mentioned yet is that if you have 3 sources, or 4 sources, which is usually what you have. Sometimes you have 2, but for the most part, you have 3. You have to use a majority of the sources. In other words, if you've got 3 articles, you have to quote from at least 2 of them. If you have 4, majority of 4 is not 2, that's half. Majority means more than 50%. You would have to quote from 3. So keep that in mind. Majority of sources. Let's make a little note of that somewhere. Majority of sources must be cited and used. So if you had 2, you would have to do 2 to be majority, right? If you had 3, you would have to do 2. If you have 4, you would have to do 3. Keep that in mind. All right, I don't think I've mentioned that in the other video, and that's very, very important. All right, so then we come down. Okay, here it was maintained controlling idea. This is a focused. It's still there. You still got what we're talking about. All right, and this one is, inconsistent. It's not adequate at this point. It's inconsistent use of transitional strategies. That's why I put those little pink things in that say transition. You have to have some kind of transition going from one sentence or idea to the next. Ms. Huff will probably hit you more with this in class. All right, an uneven progression. It is not even. It's kind of haphazard. You remember when I said you want to have yellow and blue make green? If you had tons of yellow and a little bit of blue, that's called uneven progression of ideas, right? Now, let's see what a 1 would get. 1 response is it's related to the topic. Okay, you touched what the prompt is, but you did not stick with it. It provides little or no awareness of the purpose. In other words, there's no claim. They don't know what the claim is. We're going to work on that, I think, either tomorrow or the next day. Miss Huff's in charge of that at this point. You don't know your audience and you don't know what your task is. You didn't read the prompt and you haven't written a paper to that prompt. It's confusing or ambiguous. Few to little transition strategies. Frequent extraneous ideas, meaning that you're pulling things out from somewhere else. Okay. Too brief. If you don't have at least those 2 body paragraphs and an introduction and a conclusion, you can't pass. You're going to get a 1. 1 is not going to help you pass. All right. I'd like to see everybody at least at a 3 on this. I mean, obviously, I want you at a 4, but if you can write to a 3 and get a 3, we'll be golden. All right. So then let's go to our next page. Remember, this was all about basically what had the framework that has purpose, focus, and organization. If you have the framework, you are A-okay on that. You know you got what you need because you wrote the framework down. All right, go to your next page, or it could be on the back side. All right, this time we're talking about our evidence and elaboration. All right, evidence and elaboration. That is your yellow. You want to do this. Your evidence is yellow. Your elaboration, the other way of saying that is your commentary. It's used in different ways. Different people use it different. That's what the FSA calls it. They used to call it commentary. They changed it to that. The commentary. What does that mean? It's what I think without saying I. What I think about what evidence I just gave without saying I. All right. The response provides thorough. This is if you're going to get, it doesn't, okay, it assumes that's at the top. This is a 4. I didn't realize this. This is a 4. This is a 3. You need to do this across the top. This is a 2, and this is a 1, just like the last chart, okay? The first one, to get a 4, you need a thorough and convincing, support, citing evidence to the controlling idea. What's your proof? Like in our example of students leaving the high school. You have 14 restaurants within walking distance of Gaither High School. That is evidence. That's proof. I can say, yes, they're 14, or no, they're only 7, or whatever it is, right? I can prove that one way or the other. All right, which includes good use of sources. That's that thing I'm talking about. You have to have majority. This means majority. Have to have majority of facts, details. They include smoothly integrated, thorough, relevant evidence, effective use of elaborate techniques, but not limited to. All right, here's if you struggle with this, you can always go do definitions. That's a good way. Ms. Huff can walk you through that. Quotations and examples, especially definitions and examples. If you include those, you're golden, and then you can tell what you think. You give the examples. Let's just say within 500 yards of Gaither, there is a Beef O'Brady's, a McDonald's, and a Chick-fil-A. Well, I think there's even a couple more, but let's just say that was the evidence. So then you could further go into in your commentary, students would easily be able to walk there and get back in the length of time that the lunch period is. If that was your evidence, that would be your commentaries. What do you think about that? How does it make you feel? All right. So then you go to the next one. It says clear and effective expression of ideas. They want to know what you think about it, but they don't want you to say I, right? Using precise language. accurate language. In other words, you didn't say I, you used language that's appropriate. You didn't use fifth grade words, right? You used high school words. All right. Academic and domain specific vocabulary. Don't say, I liked it. Okay. You would say, I liked, of course, you're not saying I, this is just specific language. I liked the way the author included evidence in their paper. Boom, it gives more. Clearly appropriate for the audience and purpose. Okay, that doesn't just mean appropriate like don't cuss, obviously don't cuss, but it means don't write like a fifth grader. This is written, this test is written that so that even a 10th grader, this is what it should be, at least a 10th grader can write this well. That's what it is. Varied sentence structure. Okay, that means don't write in short little choppy sentences. Write well. All right, that would be to get you a 4. Let's look at a 3. The response provides adequate, there's our word from last time, instead of thorough and convincing, it would be adequate. Citing evidence, everything else looks fairly the same. Well, it says, yeah, includes. The other one says that includes. Okay, so that one's the same. All right, then we have generally integrated and relevant evidence. Okay, but over here it was smoothly integrated, thorough, and relevant evidence. Oh, it's all there, right? Let's go to the next one. Adequate use of elaborative techniques. Adequate. Adequate just means, oh, yeah, you did it. It's good enough. We don't want to be good enough on this day. You need to step it up. Domain specific, all right, instead of it being academic and domain specific, they left off the word academic. It means, well, it's domain specific. They're writing pretty much like a 10th grader. This is a 10th grader at least, right? All right. Some variation. Here's varied sentence structure, and here's some variation. In other words, a lot of your sentences look exactly the same. All right, then we go to the number 2. If you scored a 2, the response provides uneven and cursory. Do we know the word cursory? Sometimes we don't. That means incorrect. That's not good. That's not what we need to be doing. So it's uneven and cursory, like you brought in other things. It's just not, no, that has nothing to do with what the claim is. You gave a quote, but it doesn't match back to anything. All right, here's weakly integrated instead of generally integrated. It doesn't even say anything about relevant. So it's probably, oh, yes, it does. It says erratic or irrelevant. So it doesn't match. It is not making sense to us. Repetitive or ineffective use of techniques, elaborative techniques, the way you share, the way you write. It's repetitive, it sounds the same, and it's not even getting the point across. All right. Imprecise or simplistic expression of ideas. Inappropriate instead of domain-specific vocabulary, right? Some sentences limited to simple construction. Simple construction. My dog is named Sam. Sam is a German Shepherd. My dog Sam likes me. Simple little sentences like that. I bring my dog Sam to school with me. I don't know, whatever that looks like for you. If it sounds like those type of sentences, that is simple construction. We need to say, my dog Sam really likes me so much that he wants to come to school with me. And I probably would have added in there, my dog Sam, who's a German Shepherd, likes me a lot, a great deal. All right. So here we go. Number 2. Excuse me, number 1. Okay, if we only get a 1 here. Minimal support means you do not have at least 2 citings per paragraph. And you don't have at least 2 paragraphs with the controlling idea. Minimal, absent, erroneous, wrong, or irrelevant has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Ideas are vague, unclear, confusing, often inappropriate. You're writing like a 5th grader or maybe a 2nd grader, right? sentences are limited to, it says most sentences. This says most over here, and this said now it is just limited sentence structure. All right, so that's where we'd want to be over here in your 4 land, right? That's where we want to be. If you shoot for 4 and do most of this, even if you fell back a little bit, a 3 is going to make it okay. We don't want to be at a 2 or a 1, or we're not going to pass. So now we have this. So let's go to the last part. The very best you can get, remember we're on the same page that has this that we already wrote. The best you can get is a 2. So we've only got a couple of things here, right? There's only a 2 here and a 1 here. All right, this is having to do with conventions of sentence structure. Oh, no, sorry. Conventions of standard English. Command of the English language. If I were there with you, you would already be sick with me saying that. I use that a lot. You need to prove you have command of the English language. If you didn't know this, there will be 2 people reading your paper. Number 1, first thing they look for is, did they source? Are there at least 2 sources in there in every paragraph? If you don't have that, your paper gets pushed to the side and they're not even going to score it. All right, next thing they're going to look for is, do you have a claim? Okay, they got a claim. All right, then we'll start reading your paper. One person reads it and scores it and gives it a score, passes it on to another person. They're not sitting in the same place. It's the Florida hires people in North Dakota. If you didn't know this, they hire people in North Dakota to score these papers. Okay, they're English teachers that do it on the weekend or in the evening, or maybe they're retired, or maybe they're just on leave or something. They hire teachers to read these. One teacher scores it, and then another teacher will score it. Let's say one says it's a 6 and one says it's an 8, you get a 7. Let's say one says it's a 1 and one says it's a 3, you get a 2. They're going to average whatever those 2 are. So you need to impress those people. They don't know you. All they know is what they read. You have to prove you have command of the English language. The response demonstrates adequate, right? It doesn't have to be superior, just adequate. Some minor errors. They do not expect a perfect paper. I have read papers that are a 10 that definitely have errors. So you can have some errors, just not so many. It says no patterns of errors. If you spell a word wrong and you do it one time, that's okay. But if you do it in that paper 3 or 4 times, that's a problem. That is a pattern of error. Okay, so just kind of know it's okay if I misspell one word. And if you're having trouble that day, don't spend forever. If you can't spell the word right that time, get as close as you can and move on. You can have some errors. And then it says adequate use of punctuation, capitalization, sentence formation, and spelling. You can miss some things and still get a 2. That's as high as you can get. Now, a 1, that's going to say response demonstrates a partial command. That's what we don't want to get. Partial command of basic conventions. The following response has various errors. It is inconsistent in the use of punctuation, capitalization, sentence formation, and spelling. Now do you see why I have you doing this quill? Quill will help you with all of that. All right. The last one is basically, it is a 0. And people get 0s on this. The response demonstrates a lack of command. Lack of command. Man, I don't even have it together. So we want to be at a 2. Please push for the 2. Go back and read and reread. You need to edit this. You guys are not limited on your time. You're going to have plenty of time to be able to do this. I want you to take the time to do this. Let's talk just for another second about what you can pass. Remember, I said that you can pass with a 6. So let's say up here, if I got, maybe I didn't quote exactly as well as I could, but I did okay. Let's just say I got a 2. I really should have quoted better. Ms. Huffett's going to talk to you about some of the quoting part, and I'll go over it a bit. If she gives you some things to do, or if your English tutor has done that before, when you are citing, go for what your English teacher has already taught you. If you are not sure what to do, and you don't really know how to cite, the bare minimum on citing, bare minimum, this will get you to pass. You need to say the title, and sometimes they're going to give you the titles of these, and sometimes they don't. It's just like passage 2. Passage 2 is a title. And the author. They will tell you where it comes from. Title and author on your citing. That is the bare minimum. If you're not comfortable citing, do this. FSA is okay with it. Your English teacher may not be for their paper. Okay, you're going to have to step it up and learn away. But for right now, for this FSA paper, as long as you have a title and the author and refer to those when you say, when you've quoted something, you'll be okay. Like you might say, the author, if you can't find the author's name, the author of passage 2 shares, okay, we said who the author is because it's the author of passage 2, right? And we've said the title of it is passage 2. If that's all you've got, that's what you do. FSA will take that. But let's say we didn't do that quite as well as we wanted to, but we did a little better. Oh, no, I'm backwards. Let's say we did that here. All right. We didn't do real well on our purpose. So maybe we were a bonehead and we forgot to write down the framework. And so we got a little loosey-goosey. So we got a 2 there. We got a 2 there. If you do really well with your standards of English, command of the English language is what I like to call it, you would then have a 6. And usually a 6 will pass. They say it's 7, but I've seen lots of 6s now, as long as you're doing well on the reading part. So just know it does not have to be a perfect paper in any way, shape, or form. It just needs to be a very good paper. All right. Please, please, please keep this in your notebook. Have it handy. I want you to glue it in. I'll have to, somebody remind Ms. Huff that we need some glue sticks in first period, please. They are over in my cabinet in the very back. If you don't see them, in that big bookshelf right as you come in the door. But put 3 or 4 in every basket, then we'll be good for the day. Glue this in. Remember, the way I want you to glue things in is to put it in and fold it over so it doesn't stick out. If it sticks out, we're going to have a problem. You're going to need to use this when you go back and do a couple of the activities you're going to do over the next couple of weeks. Have a good day. Thank you. Miss you guys.